What is up, awesome people of the internet? Guys, breaking news to share with you all. Breaking news involving the Indiana Fever, because it seems like the Indiana Fever have gotten exactly what they wanted, and it feels like the script is already written for the Indiana Fever to end up in the WNBA finals for 2025 and end up winning the championship. Like it feels like the script is written that it's going to happen, because all the ducks are coming in a row for the Indiana Fever. The trade, the trades, the free agency signings, like it's been wild, absolutely wild. And this news that I'm about to tell you about ups the ante for the conversations about contending Indiana Fever. So here we go. Here's the story. Guys. Was released at 11 a.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Central time. Guys, I literally got off the plane, and you're able to turn off airplane mode and whatnot. And I looked and I was like, oh, whoa, I need to quickly go home and make this video. So very fresh video, literally just landed. But Christy Wallace, the news is that Christy Wallace, the player who started for the Indiana Fever to start for 2024, ended up getting relegated to the bench, didn't play that much towards the end of the season. She has decided to forego the 2025 season. Now, again, Indiana Fever get exactly what they want. Let's get into the press release that was put out earlier today. So, according to the Fever, they say Indiana Fever forward Christy Wallace announced today that she will not play during the 2025 WNBA season, electing to sit out the year. As a result, Wallace's contract will be suspended and she will not be eligible to return during the 2025 season, with the Fever retaining her rights. And here's what Christy Wallace says. She said, "This has not been an easy decision for me, but one that I make knowing it is what is in my best interest at this time. I would like to thank the Fever organization for working with me throughout this process, giving me both time and consideration and their support for my decision. I look forward to cheering the team on from afar during this upcoming season." As a native of Australia, Wallace joined the Fever in 2023. Last season, she appeared in 26 games, averaging 4.7 points and 1.8 rebounds. So that's the press release that was put out. Now let's talk specifically more about Christy Wallace. So some of y'all may not know who Christy Wallace is. Y'all of course saw her play for the Indiana Fever this past season, but you don't know who she is. Well, Christy Wallace, if you don't know, she actually played college ball in the U.S. She played for Baylor, played for the Baylor Bears, for Kim Mulkey, actually. And she ended up getting drafted as the number 16th pick in the 2018 WNBA draft. She was drafted by the Atlanta Dream. Ultimately, we did see her get traded from Atlanta to the Indiana Fever. So basically what happened, it was a trade. So the trade involved Christy Wallace going to the Fever, and Danielle Robinson, who was on the Fever, ended up going to the Atlanta Dream. So that trade happened in January of 2023. And then she continued. She played for the Fever in 2023, played for the Fever in 2024. Last season, we all saw that she got a lot of minutes, right? There was a lot of talk from then head coach Chrissy Sides that like Christy Wallace is our defensive anchor, right? Like she's our player, right? And so Christy Wallace got a lot of minutes early in the season, but as time went on, Lexi Hull's minutes started going up, and Christy Wallace's minutes started going down. Christy Wallace, she's cool, but she's not as dynamic of a player as Lexi Hull in terms of like what she can do on the offensive and defensive end overall. And so, hey, there was a lot of talk about Christy Wallace, and with all the moves that the Fever were making, it was a question about how much cap space will the Indiana Fever have, right? There's been lots of changes happening with the Indiana Fever, right? If y'all want a refresher, here's some of the people that the Indiana Fever have just added to their roster, because it's some pretty good talent. It's some pretty good talent. You got Natasha Howard that signed as a free agent. You got Sophie Cunningham that the Fever got via a trade. You got Brianna Turner, who signed as a free agent. You had Jaylen Brown, who signed as a training camp contract. So not on the books officially just yet, but will be if she makes the actual roster. Duana Bonner signed as a free agent, and Sydney Colson signed as a free agent as well. This is a team that has a brand new head coach in Stephanie White. And they are looking to absolutely make some noise. You already have the core, right, of Caitlin, and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, right? You got that core, and now you add in all this talent around it. And the question mark was, what was going to happen with Christy Wallace? That was a question mark, because if we look at her hoop stats for the salaries, like for the Indiana Fever for 2025, they had a slight issue of sorts where they weren't going to have enough money to be able to actually sign the maximum amount of players, because the way as we look at this right now, Kelsey Mitchell just got the bag as the core player. Then we got Tasha Howard, Duana Bonner, Sophie Cunningham, Damaris Dances, and sort of go down the list. But we see Christy Wallace, she was guaranteed $80,000 this upcoming year. And that's a contract that's a protected deal. So there was nothing that the Indiana Fever could do besides doing a buyout. We saw a buyout of Katie Lou Samuelson's contract. Originally, Katie Lou Samuelson was supposed to be getting, I believe, $180,000 for this upcoming season. They decided to do a buyout with her, and they ended up only paying her $106,000. She was able to leave the team, move on. She's now signed with the Seattle Storm. But they were able to recoup some money of that allocated money that they had going to Katie Lou Samuelson. And it was a question mark of, okay, what are they going to do with Christy Wallace's contract? Because Christy Wallace, she's not getting paid. She wasn't getting paid a ton of money that necessitated a buyout, because the likelihood of you actually really getting a significant amount of money that you can actually bring in a whole nother person is not likely. And so it was a question mark of, okay, what is Christy Wallace going to do? What is she going to and what are the Fever going to do for Christy Wallace? Because it wasn't likely that she was going to play at all this season, really. And so there was a lot of question marks around it. And now the question marks have been answered. We now know that she has decided to sit out a season, which means that the Indiana Fever, they had 31,000 at this point. They had 31,000 left to spend, though again, that is not including this training camp contract. The training camp contract does not count until the player actually makes the roster. So as of right now, if this was the roster, Jaylen Brown actually wouldn't make the cut, because they have 31,000 in cap space, and Jaylen Brown, if she actually got signed to the team, she would get paid $66,000. But now that Christy Wallace's $80K is now off the board, you add that $80K to the $31K, and you got some money. You got some money to play with, right? You have enough to actually sign a full player, right? So maybe it's Jaylen Brown, and then halfway through the season, you are signing someone else to kind of fill out that roster even more, to have 12 players going into the WNBA playoffs. Or maybe you bring someone else in that has more experience. And sure, Jaylen Brown competes in the training camp just like all training camp contracts do, but ultimately she wouldn't make the team, right? So it depends. It depends. Do you try to get a more veteran player that would require a salary of $110,000? If you do that, it all but guarantees that Jaylen Brown wouldn't make the actual roster. Though it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to ultimately see what the Indiana Fever do. But they do have room to move. They have room to make some decisions. And again, this is exactly what the Indiana Fever wanted. They needed something for Christy Wallace. They likely weren't going to do that buyout, but hey, when she opted to be like, you know what, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna peace out. I'm gonna still rock with y'all, but I'm gonna sit out for the 2025 season. And for those who are saying, what, she's sitting out? That's weird. That's strange. It's actually not strange in the WNBA. In the WNBA, particularly for international players, we see players sit out it's a regular thing, almost every year. there's at least one player, usually a non-American player, who sits out, right? Like Lou Lopez sent us all, right? She just said that she was going to sit out for the 2025 season. Lou Lopez sent us all plays for the Dallas Wings, right? So this isn't abnormal, right? This is not an abnormal thing. At least once a year, there's at least one person usually who opts out of their contract year, which means that the Indiana Fever still have her rights, and they can, like, she still technically belongs to the Indiana Fever. She's just saying that actually I'm not gonna play in this season, but everything stays the same come 2026, right? So that's the thing there. I thought it was pretty interesting. I wanted to let y'all know the breaking news. But the Indiana Fever gets what they want. They end up getting a lot of money back. $80,000 left back in the coffers for them to decide what they want to do when it comes to just other moves that they need to make. Again, the Indiana Fever have a lot of new people on their roster, and they're looking to be contenders. Again, the script seems to be written already for the Indiana Fever to make their triumphant return to the WNBA finals. Like, man, I'm just saying. You got Dewana, you got Natasha Howard, you got Sophie Cunningham, right? You got Sydney Colson. Like, you got some really awesome pieces. And I'm interested to ultimately see what they end up doing for 2025. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below. Guys, thank y'all so much for rocking with me. Sorry for the bit of rambly nature of this video. I literally just came in, sat down, and was like, okay, let me turn on this camera. Let me start. Let me react to the breaking news. But again, that is news. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below. I think this is a great win for Indiana. We don't actually know the reason as to why Christy Wallace is sitting out. Sometimes it's a matter of players just wanting to actually have an off season, because again, these players, women's basketball is a year-round thing. So players are not just playing in the WNBA. They're also playing in other leagues as well. And sometimes it can be like a huge rat race, just like you're going from league to league to league to league. You don't get that much rest. And so I don't know if that's the particular issue for Christy Wallace, but I do know that is a thing that sometimes players do decide to sit out for. Maybe it's that she's like, you know what, maybe she sees all the stuff that's happening with Indiana, and she's like, you know what, I know that, the pressure is going to be really high. I know that it's going to be a lot of attention and whatnot, and maybe I'm not down for that. Or maybe she's like, you know what, I just need some me time. I just need 4 months where I can work on my game without having to actually play in 40 plus games in that time period. Like, so we don't exactly know the reason why, but we do know that this is not abnormal. Again, this is not abnormal. This happens quite a bit in the WNBA. Not abnormal. And it usually happens in relation to foreign players. Like, this is not a thing that American players usually do, right? We saw Elena Delle Donne sit out last year, but that was because she was sitting out because the Washington Mystics cored her, and she didn't want to be cored, right? That's why she sat out. We famously remember back in the day when Diana Taurasi, one of the rare Americans that sat out, she sat out because her Russian team decided to give her a boatload of money to sit out. So, like, there's been some Americans who have sat out, but, like, for the most part, it's usually foreigners who sit out because of other things, right? Like, they want to be home for a little bit. Like, there's lots of stuff. So anyway, that is the news. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below. And also, again, do y'all think the script is written? Not and I don't say that in a way where it's like, there's cheating involved, but it just seems like this is a Hollywood movie where where this team is about to return to their former glory in terms of a championship, and transcend the game even further than it has gone before. So yeah. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Guys, I will have a wrap-up video around my whole Miami trip soon, so make sure to check that out as well. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and make sure to tell a neighbor, tell a friend that Quita Loves Sports is on the internet, and she is talking about women's sports with context, with information and with a little bit of randomness, you know. Anyway, see y'all next one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.